And we showed you the video where the MSNBC hosted a McCarthy smear against Jill Stein, and she just told her facts. And then all the headlines were, Jill Stein melts down. Oh. It was unbelievable. Jill Stein just with a smile on her face, couldn't be more controlled, calm, and collected, and just pushed back that every BS thing that host was saying. And so they're doing the same kind of smear to Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. It's not working. They're trying to say that he worked with a communist spy in Czechoslovakia. It's all kinds of stuff, right? And what it means is they're afraid. Why would they bother to smear Jill Stein? Why would you bother to smear Jill Stein? Because you're afraid that she might take votes away from the Democrats. That's why. Why would you bother to smear Jeremy Corbyn? Because he's fucking a threat to the power. He's a threat to the establishment. So here's a guy from the BBC. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the BBC. They're usually pretty junky, but this guy's going to push back against these McCarthy smears of Jeremy Corbyn, and it's like you would never see this on American TV. But here, let's watch this.
Corbyn has, quote, betrayed his country. In what way?
Well, the Defence Secretary's chosen his own.
So if you see these newspapers back there, that's all the headlines. And I'll read a couple of them to you. Corbyn, the collaborator. That's in the Daily Mail. Corbyn used to reveal his studio. So that's the Daily Telegraph. So that's all the headlines that are smearing him. Headlines, by the way. And so they have them all there, and they're all there in a montage or a collage. So he's asking him straight questions, which I love.
Corbyn has, quote, betrayed his country. In what way?
Well, the Defence Secretary's chosen his own words. I mean, the point for me about this debacle
has he betrayed his country?
Well, Jeremy Corbyn, I think, is a grave danger to this country, but that's because
he betrayed the country?
That's because of the ideas in which he believes and what that would mean for our economy and our society.
People have all sorts of ideas. But you're a defence secretary, our defence secretary, the defence secretary of this government, of our government, has said the leader of Her Majesty's opposition has betrayed his country. In what way has he betrayed his country?
Well, that really is a question for Gavin Williamson. That's not the word.
So you don't agree with it?
Well, I'm not really commenting on the...
Well, do you think he's betrayed the country?
I think that Jeremy Corbyn is a grave danger to our country.
But that's a political point. That's different. Of course you do. Everybody in one party thinks the other party is a grave danger. Betrayal is an entirely different matter. That's a serious accusation. I just point out that a senior figure in the Czech Republic Defense Ministry says Sarkozy, who is the former Czech spy, it's his real name, is a liar. That's the exact word. The director of the Czech archives on security says no files show Mr. Corbyn cooperating with Czech intelligence. The German archivists say there are no Stasi files on Mr. Corbyn at all. So I ask again, in what sense has Mr. Corbyn betrayed this country?
Well, Andrew, I'm not going to comment on that. As you've suggested, this is an area where there's lots of questions to answer. Well, we've got a free press in this country. The free press is asking the questions. They should be answered. Yeah,
but it's not just the free press. Your fellow Tories are all piling in as a result. Your security minister, again, the key word security minister, he's compared Mr. Corbyn to Kim Philby. Kim Philby was a traitor. At the time, if he'd been found guilty, he would have been hanged. That's an outrageous smear to say of the leader of the opposition.
Well, Andrew, I'm not going to allow you to draw me into potentially libelling anybody, and so I'm not going to comment on that.
So you don't agree with that either? So you don't agree with the defence minister, you don't agree with the security minister?
But this is classic dead cat strategy, isn't it? The government's on the ropes on a whole range of issues, from NHS crisis, children's services are in crisis.
I've got the government on the ropes, and you've just interrupted.
The domestic agenda.
Let me try and keep them on the ropes. A Tory backbencher, MP, Ben Bradley, he tweeted that Mr. Corbyn had, quote, sold British secrets to communist spies. Sold British secrets to communist spies. So clearly without evidence that he then had to delete it.
Well, that really is a matter for Ben. But what I would say to you is that we believe in a free press in this country. The questions have been asked. The questions need to be answered.
I'm asking, do you think that Mr. Corbyn can be compared to Kim Philby? Do you think that he has in any way betrayed this country? do you think he sold British secrets? Do you think any of that?
I've got no evidence for any of that, and so I won't make
So
any
why do your colleagues?
Well, that's a matter for them, Andrew.
Surely the real scandal, Mr. Baker, isn't what Mr. Corbyn has supposedly done or not done. It's the outright lies and disinformation that your fellow Tories are spreading. That's the real scandal, isn't it?
Yes. That's the real scandal. And by the way, it's backfiring in UK. Didn't work. This smear of Jeremy Corbyn did not work. All the newspapers can print all that stuff. Now you know why people don't trust the news. Now you know why people get their news from YouTube. Same thing in the United States. People wanted to get news about Bernie Sanders. They saw how they were he was bullshit. New York Times blamed him for Steve Scalise's shooting. So people see that's why people don't trust, and that's why when Trump says fake news, it lands. Well, maybe because every other month they have to fire a bunch of reporters who got a story wrong about Trump. That's another maybe reason why it lands, because they keep getting stuff wrong about him in the same way always. So wouldn't that be nice to see it? But what we get in the United States, we get the opposite. We don't get a guy pushing back against the government smears. In the United States, we get someone doing the smear, and the politician has to fact check the goddamn reporter. You think I'm kidding? So here is what's been happening in the United States. There's some straight up. That's Ari Melber from MSNBC. He's not doing what the BBC guy did. He's doing the exact opposite. He's doing the dirty work that politicians usually do. He's smearing. He says Bernie Sanders' response to Mueller's indictment does not address that this Russian operation tried to help his campaign, per the indictment. Just as I reported Ari Trump, that is a remarkable omission. What a complete fuck. Have you no shame, Ari? Have you no dignity, sir? And I don't care what the fuck you say or how many mental gymnastics you do to justify that. That's disgusting. And to think that, did you ever think the day you decided you wanted to be a journalist that you'd be doing McCarthy smears? When you watch Good Night and Good Luck, did you ever think that you'd be the bad guy in that movie? Because you are. And so that's the kind of shit that's happening here. And here's what they're doing to Jill Stein. I showed you this before, but it's worth repeating.
Special Counsel Mueller's indictment, which says that Russians used social media to boost your campaign, as well as Senator Sanders' campaign, in an effort to damage Hillary Clinton and then help Donald Trump. So your reaction to Senator Sanders there? Look, he's saying that his campaign hadn't at least an idea there was some level of interference. Were you ever alerted to any of these efforts by Russia to boost your campaign?
So let me just back up for a minute to point out that what was cited in the Mueller indictment was one Facebook posting, okay? One Facebook posting, and that's it. That is being claimed as evidence of our campaign benefiting from a boost from Russia. Remember, one Facebook post, and in other evidence cited outside of Mueller's indictment, we were found to have received one or possibly two Facebook ads posted by the so-called Internet Research Agency. So remember here, on Facebook, there are trillions of pieces of information posted. So this doesn't pass the laugh test, actually.
Well, but
as
it doesn't.
evidence
But I'm
of our
not.
campaign benefiting.
So were you aware, though, of these?
So she has to push back against. But were you aware that you're a communist? Did you know? She's literally asking, did you know about two memes that someone posted on Facebook about you? What? And she just told you there's a trillion. Hey, did you see that needle in a haystack? Did you see it, though? Because, come on. Did you see it?
You're talking about the Facebook post and of the agency's advertisement. Had you been aware of those?
It's pretty hard to pick up one ad or one Facebook post among trillions.
No, understandably so. So you were not aware?
Weren't.
You were not aware?
No, we were not aware. But let me say, we were aware of other kinds of interference. For example, we know that $6 billion in free airtime was given to Donald Trump by the big networks. $6 billion. This was twice as much as Hillary Clinton, about 4 times as much as Bernie Sanders, way more than the independent Republican candidates. Is that not interference?
No, listen,
to have billions
I
spent
do
on a
understand, but
candidate?
it's not Russian interference, and I will say, I'm proud to say that we actually had you on our broadcast.
So do you see what's happening? That the politician literally has to fact check the host. The host is doing the McCarthy smears. It's the exact opposite of what should be happening. So the enemy is MSNBC, the establishment media. We showed you how they're smearing Jeremy Corbyn. And there's a little bit more to this.
But it certainly seems likely that it had some impact.
So, while we may never know precisely whether these efforts played a role in the outcome of the election, when we look at 3 of the states that Russia targeted, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania being among those that they targeted, Pennsylvania as well, if I didn't say that, is it plausible that these Russian actors created enough influence that changed a few thousand votes here and there, and ultimately that could have altered the election?
So let me say the assumption here is that the votes belong to Hillary Clinton and that my votes were stolen from someone else. And I think that's an insult to American voters who really deserve to choose, who made it perfectly clear that they did not like. In fact, these were the most distrusted and disliked candidates in recorded history. So to try to excuse my votes as being stolen from Hillary is outrageous. But beyond that, we have data. We actually have scientific data on how people voted. And what we know is that the people who voted for me, in vast majority, over 60%, would not have voted if I wasn't there. And of the remainder who would vote, many of them would have gone to Donald Trump. So just asserting that those votes belong to Hillary is just another sign of the arrogance of the Democratic establishment, which is really working overtime here to silence its opposition. And if you look at the smear campaign that's actually been conducted against me about being a Russian tool, when did that get started? Remember, my trip based on foreign policy, on a peace offensive, on addressing nuclear weapons and the climate crisis.
You were speaking against the war, while you were there.
Absolutely, and trying to promote nuclear disarmament and really substantive climate emergency action, talking not only to Russian media and officials. On that same trip, I spoke to the deputy lead negotiator for China at the climate talks. I spoke with Jeremy Corbyn, the head of the Labour Party in the UK. So these are really critical issues. And I'd say what's wrong with our elected officials that this is not on their agenda.
Very important issues. We've discussed them before on this broadcast.
So I wanted to show that because I know I've already done a video about that video, but I wanted to show it in contrast to how the BBC handled the smearing of Jeremy Corbyn, and here's how MSNBC handles the smearing of Jill Stein. They actually do the smearing. So now you know why we have a show. Now you know why Jagoff nightclub comedians can't just be Jagoff nightclub comedians, because we got, the just tools of evil. Pretending that they're news people and that they're doing good work instead of exactly what that is, just bullshit. And boy, do I not want to be in their club. I could not want to be not in their club. I can't say not enough in that sentence. I don't want to not ever not be in their not club, not ever. Do you want to be in that club with her? Do you want to go see her at a party? Hey, when you were smearing that Jill Stein, that was great. That was great. How much did they pay you? $5,000 a day? $10,000 a day? $20,000 a day? That's fantastic. Whew.